Today I'm going to show you the easiest way that we know to rejuvenate your pastures and everything else. All right, I'm in the latest paddock, and right here is Michelle's little buddy, Walter. He's our oldest little Judas sheep. And he was a bottle baby back in the day, years ago. He's a pretty old sheep, but he's still trucking on, and he can hold his own. Ain't that right, boy? I'm going to address something that a lot of people wonder about, and they wonder how they can do it and how they can do it in record time. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. Ain't that right, Walter? We're in the latest paddock, and this paddock just happens to be located in the very spot that William cleared last year to make it open for silver pasture. Now you can see over here, there's some of these trees like the one behind me over here that actually has a tag on it. That's one of the ones we're taking out. It ain't all gonna happen at once, but it is gonna happen. Let's just take a little bit of a walk and I'll tell you what the problems are. You see a little leaf litter on the ground, and that's wonderful, but let me tell you what else you don't see, and you gotta be almost here to see it. We got a lot of patchy bare ground, okay? See that? Also see over here, I got some silver grass that would like to come up. And you can see where the sheep have basically clipped it off. They'll eat it when it's young, but when it's mature, nothing but a water buffalo will eat it. Over here, we got more bare ground, a little bit of leaf litter. Here's the problem. We tested this soil, and it is highly bacterial, which is twice as bad when you're dealing with a silver pasture setting, because you should have a higher fungal component to these woods. So if we look down here, you can see this little path where William cleared out. Okay, now it's going to get sunlight. And because it's so bacterial, we know that highly invasive silvergrass is going to want to take over. Remember what Jeff Lawton always says, if you don't intervene in some way or another, these highly invasive weed regimes will take over. So that's where we come in. So one of the easiest ways of doing that is just what you see right now. Yeah, we got stuff that was stockpiled for the winter, and that's all well and good, but this is an area I need to rejuvenate. So what's the best way of going about it? Once again, Greg Judy 101. It's worked so well for us every single time we've done it. Now in his case, on larger acreage, well, even despite the acreage in these mountains, you ain't getting a round bale up here, not in these woods. Ain't gonna happen. So we gotta do square bales, which means I also get to stack functions, which means I get a workout carrying those 30, sometimes 40-pound bales up the side of a doggone mountain. So I'm getting the workout and I'm getting these guys squared away. So here's what's gonna happen. I dropped 2 bales this morning. They're only gonna eat, maybe all together with everything else they have in here, they might eat about half of 1 bale. So why am I wasting money? Well, okay, let me put it this way. First of all, let me back up a little bit. These bales that I threw over to these guys, number one, I got them from a person locally that I trust. It's not been sprayed, no Grazon, none of that stuff, which is also a plus. And number two, it's a higher quality, and it's about $5 to $6 cheaper than if I went to a farm store. Okay, that helps too. So all I'm doing is taking these guys, they're gonna eat this stuff and they're gonna scatter it out. I'll show you a spot in a minute where they've already done it. They're gonna eat it, they're gonna scatter it out, they're gonna stomp it, they're gonna poop on it, they're gonna pee on it. And a lot of it, some people are gonna say it's gonna be completely wasted, but it ain't. Because that's precisely what we need, is a carbon, basically a carbon, as Joel Salatin calls it, a carbon blanket to put down on this soil to let the things I want to come through. As they eat this, poop on it, pee on it, stomp on it, the whole 9 yards, it's gonna make this area a little more fungal dominant. Isn't that right, Walter? And as it does, this silvergrass ain't gonna wanna come back, and the things I do want in this silver pasture setting are going to now be the dominant thing. Let's go and look at one of the areas in which they've already done their work. Now before we do that, just kind of take a look over here. Everything looks clumped up. Now let's go to a spot that they just hit yesterday. Right here is a perfect indication of what I'm talking about. All those clumps that I threw out yesterday, guess what? If we get down low here, they're all spread out on the ground. Sheep poop everywhere. And of course, there's going to be urine on it as well. This is exactly what we've been doing in the areas that need the highest amount of TLC, recovery, call it whatever it is you want. This is how we're doing it. Now, is there a little bit of investment on the front end? Yeah, because you got to bring in hay, but you also don't have, well, they got to eat something. And right now they're in a 3-day rotation in the winter in this particular area. So as they go through each bare spot in here, I'm covering up all the problem areas, and they all essentially look like this. Now, like I said, many people are going to say this is a big waste. It isn't. This is an absolute investment. All right, so these guys are doing 99% of the work for me. Let's talk about another area where you can recover the ground in record time. Before we get to the next spot, I just want to point out, when we first got here, this land was so incredibly abused that everything you see behind me was absolutely positively covered in goldenrod and multiflora rose. It's not now. And when spring rolls around, we're going to show you just how awesome it is when you just take good dogs to the hunt. Here's another way. Now, you may not be dealing with animals and pasture and stuff like that, but you might be wanting to plant a garden. Just recently, a friend of mine reached out and he's like, man, I got all this work I need to do. What method should I do? The soil's so hard, it's so awful, it's so bad. Folks, I'm here to tell you, the ground I'm standing on was as hard as woodpecker lips. When we first got here, I'm standing in basically a patch of perennial kale. It'll come back. Right now it looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss book, but this is exactly what's been going on. Michelle's been taking stuff off of here, feeding it to the animals. Not necessarily feeding it to us, but you can do that for those so inclined. The point I'm trying to point out, this whole area was covered in nothing but multiflora rose. In fact, some of the earliest videos we did on this property had to do with using the pigs to clear this stuff. Pigs gave us access, we yanked it out, but that ground was jacked up from the feet up. We employed one of the easiest methods to build soil that we know of, and that's using Jeff Lawton's Instinct Garden. People call it lasagna gardening, some people call it sheep mulching. It can be any number of things, but that's exactly what we did on here. In fact, we did it a lot of the way that you see down here right now. What I did, in a nutshell, put down a little bit of poop, a lot of cardboard, and a lot of carbon on top of it. Put that down, give it time. If you want, plant into it. You can do the whole 9 yards. You will be astonished at how quickly you build soil. So quickly, in fact, that we were absolutely flabbergasted. Ground that you could barely get a spade into, now all of a sudden became fertile in one season. Think I'm crazy? Give it a shot. Find out for yourself. So whether you're doing a garden, whether you're doing your pasture, carbon is your friend. And you can use those things in other ways. Let's take a little trip down here and I'll show you another version of it. Right over here, I've talked about it before. This is part of the orchard setting. What you see down here right now, I'm gonna pull some of it back so you can see, is another version of what I just talked about. Right here is cardboard underneath. And I got a bunch of wood chips that didn't cost me a dime. Now, it did cost me elbow grease. Put the cardboard down, covered it up. It's that simple. And what happens after that will absolutely blow your mind, because not only is it's keeping all the things I don't want to come up from coming up, but it's also making this ground way more fungal dominant for the benefit of these trees. It does require a little bit out of you. It is going to require some work, but it's all a matter of how you frame your mind and whether you see it as work or is it something that you're doing for a future investment, which is exactly the way I look at it. Plus, I'm also getting something of a workout out of it. I mean, it's a win-win-win-win-win. The animals get fed. We get fed, ultimately. The bees that we got over there get fed. Every single thing gets fed. Every single time we take and put chemicals down there to solve what we think are problems, you're just taking yourself 10 steps backwards. By using nature's method, and this is exactly how nature does it, by using nature's method, we find out that every step we take towards nature, we get 20 steps right back to us. Y'all, hopefully this was a blessing to you. If you need bone sauce, the very thing we put on these trees, world's best deer repellent. It's not a panacea, but it is the best. Got it at the website. Anything else you need from us, check us out down below. We got a ballin' butcher course down below you might want to check out. Anything else you need, EMP shield, it's all down below. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see y'all next time.